Okay, hello everyone. Okay, so before we continue, right, with our lesson, so let me introduce myself first. Okay, so my name is Puan Yusfalina. Okay, and I will teach you science. Okay, for this year. Okay, so before we go to the first chapter, so I just want to give a short briefing. Okay, so what you need to have, okay, during the science lesson. So the first one, of course, you must have the textbook. Okay, the textbook. Okay, please bring. Okay, every time there is a science class, you have to bring the textbook. Okay, and then the experiment book. Okay, so usually we use the long book, right? Okay, and the next one is for the exercise. Usually I will just use the handout. Okay, and also the notes, right? So the notes also will be in the handout. Okay, so mean you don't need to have the notes or exercise book. All I will give in the handout. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, to the next uh, chapter. There is the human nervous system. Okay, so what is actually the human nervous system? So actually human nervous system, there are quite an important part, okay, in our body. So let's say if you see the fierce dog, okay, so what your body will do, okay, so how your body will respond. So the when you see the fierce dog, so means the fierce dog is giving you the stimuli, okay, or stimulus, okay, and how you react, that one is the response. Okay, so how does the stimuli is connecting to the response, so that's we will learn in this chapter. Or another example, okay, so let's say this one is for our internal part of body. So let's say during the hot day, right? So during the hot day, the brain, okay, the brain will stimulate, okay, the brain will stimulate the glands, okay, to produce the hormone, okay, so to let the kidney, okay, to let the kidney know, right, how much the um urea that need to be secret. Okay, let's say during the hot day, of course, you know the amount of urea will be less, right? If you compare with the cool day. Okay, so that is also a part of the human nervous system. It's not just how you respond, okay, by action. Okay, it's also important. It's important part. Okay, in our body system. Okay, it means internal organ too. Okay, it's not just how we respond. Okay. Alright, so we move on to the next one is human nervous system. So the human nervous system is an important control system in the body coordination. Okay. Uh, and then other than sight, thinking, and body movement, the human nervous system also controls and coordinates the organ function in the body and maintains a balanced internal movement uh, through a process. Okay, so just now I just say it's not just how you react. Okay, let's say if you are giving let's say you see a fierce dog, right? It's not how you react, it's also took part, alright? How does your internal organ, okay, function? Okay, by your brain will stimulate uh the glands, okay, to secrete the hormone, right? So the kidney knows, right, whether to secrete the urea, okay, less or more, okay, like that. So the next part, okay, so the structure of the human nervous system. So the first one is the central nervous system, okay, peripheral nervous system. So there are consists of two parts, okay. So human nervous system, okay, there are divide into two parts, central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Okay, central nervous system. This one you can refer in your textbook. And also another one is the peripheral nervous system. Okay, so for the central nervous system, okay, there are divided into two parts. There is a brain and also the spinal cord. Okay, while the peripheral nervous system, okay, there are also divided into two parts. Okay, there is a cranial nerve and also the spinal nerve. Okay, so the peripheral nervous system consists of 12 pairs of cranial nerves, right, that connecting the brain to the sensory and also to the internal organ. Okay, so from the brain to the sensory and also the internal organ, okay, inside our body. Okay, and another one, we have the 31 pairs of spinal nerve. Okay, 31 pairs of spinal nerve that connecting the spinal cord. Okay, that are connecting here the spinal cord to the skeletal muscle. So skeletal muscle means, they say your hand muscle, okay, or your leg muscle. Okay, so that is the uh, spinal nerve. Okay, spinal nerve connecting the spinal cord to the skeletal muscle, while the cranial nerve connecting to brain, from the brain, okay, to the sensory and also to the internal organs. Okay, so there are two parts. Okay, so the next one. Okay, what's the function of the human nervous system? Okay, the human nervous system, it controls and coordinate organs and part of the body by detect the stimuli. So who will detect the stimuli? So your five senses. Okay, so there are skins. Okay, examples such as skin. Okay, your eyes, your ear, your nose. Okay, and also your tongue. Okay, so that is the sensory organ, right? So the sensory organ will detect the stimuli. Okay, then after it detect the stimuli, okay, so inside the sensory, every part of the sensory organ, so let's say in your ears, in your eyes, in your nose, okay, inside of it, okay, they got the sensory cell, okay, that will detect the stimuli, and give it will change the stimuli to the impulse. Okay, so the impulse will be sent to the brain. So to interpret, okay, what the body should do. Okay, so this information is actually in the impulse form. Okay, it's actually in the impulse form. Okay, then after that, the brain will interpret the impulse. Okay, means what is actually happened here. What did the eye see? Okay, what is the tongue taste? Okay, so that is the function of the brain. So it interprets the impulse. Okay, and then the next one, after the brain interpret the impulse, so it will send back the impulse, okay, to the organ, or we call it as the effector. Okay, so it will send back to the effector. So this effector, let's say if I give you an example, okay, and let's say if you see the fierce dog, okay, so the brain said, okay, you have to run. So means the brain will send the stimulus to your leg, okay, and it will run. Okay, it's like that. Okay, so actually I just give you, okay, how does your body responds to the stimuli. So that is actually the summary. Okay, so the first one, detect the stimuli. Okay, to detect the stimuli is the job of your sensory organ. It's the job for the sensory organ. So that means for your eyes, your ears, okay, your tongue, your skin, okay, and your nose. Okay, and then inside of each of the sensory organ, they got the sensory cell. So this sensory cell will change the information to the impulse. So let's see if you see the dog. So it will change to the impulse. Okay, all right. And after that, when the brain got the impulse, it will interpret what the body should do. So after it interprets, then it has to send the impulse back to the effector or to the other part of the organ. So the organ will do the response. So it produce the appropriate response. Okay. So this one is the function of brain. So I hope you are clear. Okay, and the next part, voluntary and involuntary action. Okay, so the response of the human body, okay, to stimuli can be divided into voluntary action and involuntary action. So what is a voluntary action? So voluntary action are conscious action and conducted under one's will. Okay, under one's will. Mean if you want to do, you will do it. If you don't want, then you will not do it. Okay, and you will actually controlled by your brain. Okay, so all voluntary action are controlled by the brain. Okay, so example of voluntary action include reading, writing, speaking, eating, drinking, walking, running, and exercising. Okay, now we look to the, okay, this is the example. Okay, so now we look to the pathway of impulse in the voluntary action. So remember just now when I give you example, okay, in the situation when you see the fierce dog, right? So I told you that one is actually the stimulus. Okay, so it must start from the stimulus. Okay, so here, let's say your phone rings. So that is the stimulus. Okay, your ear hear your phone rings. So that one is the stimulus. Okay, so after that, okay, it will produce the impulse. Okay, it will produce the impulse. Okay, and the impulse will be sent to the brain. So as you can see here, it said it start from the phone's ring. So this one is the stimulus, and you see the effector here. So receptor in human ear. So remember just now I said every sensory organ that we have, they have the receptor cell or sensory cell. Okay, so the sensory cell we call it as the effector. Okay, effector. Okay, now this receptor will change, okay, the stimulus to the impulse. Okay, to the impulse. So now after that, it will send to the brain here, to the brain here to interpret what you will do. Okay, then after that, the brain will send back the stimulus to the effector. So the effector can be muscle or gland. So like I just told you just now, during the hot day, your brain will stimulate the glands, okay, to produce the hormones, right? So the kidney will know whether to produce how much, okay, the urea that we produce. Okay, so this means the effector is not only the muscle, not only the organ, so it can include the gland here also. Okay, so if it goes to the effector, then the effector will give the response. So you will touch the screen, okay, and answer the phone. Okay, so let's say I give you another example. Okay, we continue with let's say we see the fierce dog just now. So the fierce dog is the stimulus. Okay, and you hear, and sorry, that one not here, that one you use your eyes, right? So you see the fierce dog, so your eyes is the effector here. So inside the eyes here, they got the receptor. Okay, they got the receptor. So when you see the stimulus is the fierce dog, okay, and the effector is the receptor inside your eyes. Okay, so your receptor inside your eyes will produce the stimulus, produce the impulse to send to the brain, and then the brain will interpret what we need to do. Okay, so here, and then after that you send back the impulse to the effector. So this one can be muscle. So let's say this one is a leg muscle. Let's say you want to run, so means it's sent to the leg muscle and you will run. Okay, so the response is what? The response is you run. Okay, so that is the voluntary action. So how about involuntary action? Okay, so involuntary action are actions that occur immediately, okay, without conscious control or prior thoughts. Okay, they say I give you the example when you hold the hot kettle. Okay, is it like you have to think first? No, right? Of course, you will right away take away your hands from the kettle. Or let's say if you step on the sharp object, what your leg will do? Your leg also will move away from the sharp object. So that one is the without conscious control and prior thoughts. Okay, you don't need to think. It will happen naturally. Okay. So, and the involuntary action also, it can be classified into two. Okay. The first one is controlled by the medulla oblongata. So you can see this one on your textbook also. So the first one will be involve the medulla oblongata. So the medulla oblongata, okay, control the heartbeat, the breathing, the peristalsis, and also the secretion of the saliva. So for this one, you cannot control. Okay, all that will be controlled by the medulla oblongata. Okay, it's actually at the part on your brain. Okay, I think at the back there. Okay, so the involve the medulla oblongata. So you cannot control your heartbeat. Okay, and you cannot control your breathing. So and your peristalsis. So what is your peristalsis? It's actually when you eat, right? So when you eat, your muscle at the esophagus, they will contract. Okay, we contract and relax. Okay, then the food will go down. Right, by using the peristalsis. Okay, this one you already learned when Form 2, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so this one is controlled by medulla oblongata. Okay, and the next one is involving the spinal cord. So the spinal cord, okay, for the spinal cord is a reflex action. Like I give you this, the example when you hold the hot kettle, you step on the sharp object. So that one is the reflex action. Okay, it's not controlled by the medulla oblongata. It's a reflex action. So withdrawing hand when it accidentally touch a hot object, withdrawing foot when it accidentally steps on a sharp object, or sneezing, right, when dust enter the nose. So this one is a reflex. Okay, and medulla oblongata, this one, they control actually the process, okay, inside our body, like breathing, okay, in our respiratory system, okay, peristalsis in our uh, uh, let's say when you eat, right, I told you just now, okay, when you eat, okay, the muscle in the esophagus will contract and relax, okay, so the food can go down to your stomach. Okay, and the secretion of the saliva also you cannot control. So this one, you have to remember the involuntary action is divided into two. Okay, the involving the medulla oblongata and also the spinal cord. So this is actually the peristalsis. So you can see the muscle is contracting, okay, and relax. Then the food will go down, okay, to your stomach. Okay, and also the size of pupil. Okay, so this one we will learn later. Okay, also is controlled by the medulla oblongata. Okay, let's say I put the torchlight. Okay, okay, I put in at your eyes, so your eyes will become smaller, right? So that one is also involuntary action and involving medulla oblongata. Okay, this is the example. Okay, so just now we learn the pathway for the voluntary action. So you can see that goes to the brain, and the brain will send back to the effector. Okay, but for the involuntary action, it's not involve the brain here. Okay, so what happened is still we have to have the stimulus. Of course, we need to have the stimulus. So in the example here, there is the hot object. Okay, so the stimulus here is the hot object. So when your hand touch the kettle here, okay, so you're using your hand, and of course the sensory organ there is skin. Okay, so at the skin here, they got the hot receptor. Okay, they got the hot receptor there. Okay, sorry, heat receptor, not hot receptor, heat receptor. Okay, so they got the heat receptor there. So the receptor will do what? It will produce the impulse. So then the impulse will send to the spinal cord. Okay, not the brain. Okay, we send to the spinal cord. Then the spinal cord will send back the impulse to the effector, and it will create the response. Okay, so here again the effector is the receptor. So where's the receptor? Actually, the receptor is inside your skin. Okay, at your skin. So mean at the, I think at the mist. I think for the hot receptor is at the mist. Okay. So then it will send to the spinal cord, then the spinal cord send back the impulse to the effector, then it will create the response. So it's not involving the brain here. If involving the brain, it will take a longer time. So this one, I mean your hand, okay, can be hurt because of this. So remember, the first one must have the stimulus. So the stimulus, okay, then after that is effector. Effector must be the receptor. So where does the receptor is? It's actually on our sensory organs. Okay. Okay, the receptor must be the effector here. Okay, then after the effector, the risk effector is actually, I told you, the receptor. Inside the receptor, there are what? There will produce. Okay. Wait, okay. They will produce the impulse here. So the impulse we go to the spinal cord, then the spinal cord go back to the effector, okay, to the muscle here. So your hand will be moved, okay, from the hot object. Okay, importance of the network of human nervous system in the daily life. Okay, wait for. So the network of the human nervous system controls and coordinates, okay, the organs. Okay, the network of the human nervous system controls and coordinate the organs and part of the body to carry out process, okay, in the body such as breathing and body movement. Okay, so that's the importance. So if there are no human nervous system, then you will not give any response. So if they say let's say I just give you example, we see the fierce dog, okay, we just stand there, okay, and let the dog bite you. So that happen if let's say there is no human nervous system, okay. And another one is a damaged nervous system normally causes a person to become temporarily, partially, and completely paralyzed. Okay, so for example, if the nerve in the muscle or leg or hand are injured, okay, so the person will face the difficulty in moving his leg or hand. So in the case of more serious problem, he might have to depend on the machines, okay, to carry out his physiological process such as breathing and heart beating. Okay, humans are blessed with nervous system, so they should use and take care of it. Okay, so we move on to the next one. Okay, stimuli and response in human. Okay, these changes are called stimuli. So, like I give you example. Okay, we use again the fierce dog. Okay, so the change, right? The change in environment, right? So before this, you didn't see a dog. Then suddenly the dog is there and it's fierce, right? So means there is a change. That one is called a stimuli. Okay. So example of stimuli include light, sound, and chemical substance. Okay. Humans use the sensory organs to detect the stimuli. Okay. So I already told you there are 5 sensory organs. Okay, earlier. Okay, before. Okay, there are eyes, ears, nose, skin, and also tongue. Okay, so you have to remember this one. So again, and I remind you again. So inside the sensory organ, we have what? We have the receptor. Okay, we have the receptor. So this receptor will do what? It will produce the stimulus. It will produce the impulse. Okay. So we have to learn. We already know we have the 5 sensory organ. So inside our sensory organ, they say this one is eyes. Okay. So we see the first one, eyes. So what actually we have, okay, in our eyes? Okay. So I give you, we start from the outer layer first. Okay. So you can see in your textbook. Okay. There's a diagram there. Okay. So here is the outer layer of the eyes. Okay. So the outer layer, okay, we call it as the sclera. So sclera is actually the strong layer. You need to remember the characteristic and also the function for each part of the eye. Okay. So sclera, right? So strong layer that maintains the shape of the eyes and protect it. Okay. So what sclera do? It just maintain the shape of the eye. Okay. It just maintain the shape of the eye. Okay, and then the second layer, you see the black one. Okay, the black layer here. So this one we call it as the choroid. So the black layer that prevents reflection of light. We already know the characteristic of the black color that absorb light. So there will, this one, inside our eyes, there is a choroid. So this chloride, we prevent, okay, we prevent the reflection because it absorbs light. Okay, same as we assume that black color, it absorbs heat. So here the black chloride is actually to absorb the light, so there will be no reflections. Okay, and it also supplies oxygen and nutrients to the eye. Okay, we supplies oxygen and nutrients to the eye. Okay, and the third layer, the yellow one. Okay, the yellow one is the most important one. Without this one, we cannot see. Why? Okay, because at this part, they contain the photoreceptor. Remember, I just told you just now, we are starting from stimulus, then we goes to the effector. The effector is the receptor. So here the photoreceptor. So photoreceptor means it produce what? It will produce the impulse. Okay. So layer containing photoreceptor which detect lights and produce nerve impulse. So this is the most important part, okay, because at this part, that will produce the impulse. So without the impulse, of course, the brain will not interpret anything, right? So this is the retina. We call it as the retina. Okay, on the top of the retina, there are two spots. We call it as the yellow spot. Yellow spot containing many photoreceptors there. Okay, they contain many photoreceptors there. So mean if the image, okay, fall on the yellow spot, okay, you can see. Right? If not, you cannot see it clearly. Okay, so the yellow spot is actually on the top of the retina here. On the layer of the retina, you got the yellow spot. Okay, so this one, remember, is the most sensitive to light and has many photoreceptors. Okay, so retina, layer of the retina, they got photoreceptors that we convert it to the impulse, then it will send to the brain. Okay, but there are the two spots there. The yellow spot, that one has so many photoreceptors that is very sensitive to the light. Okay, that one also we convert the impulse, we convert the image to the impulse and we send to the brain. Okay, and the next one is a blind spot. So the blind spot is on top of the retina. So you already know it's blind spot. Means every image that fall on the blind spot, you will not see it. Okay, because there is no photoreceptor. So that's the reason. Because there is no photoreceptor and also it's the exit point for all optic nerve fiber. So here is the blind spot. Here is the yellow spot. So when the photoreceptor on the yellow spot, okay, it produce the impulse, it will send the impulse to the brain by optic nerve. So optic nerve is like the path, okay, for the impulse to go to the brain. Okay, so this is the optic nerve. So optic nerve doing what? Is a carry nervous impulse from the retina to the brain to be interpreted. Okay, and then we have at the middle here. Okay, at the middle here, okay, I think here orange color maybe. Okay, so the vitreous humor. So it's a jelly-like substance which maintain the shape of the eyeball and focus the light onto the retina. Okay, it maintains. So you can see it consists of biggest part, okay, in the eye, right? So it maintains the shape of the eyeball. It's same as the function of the sclera. Okay, but in addition, okay, it also helps the light, okay, to be focused at the retina. Okay, the next one we have the conjunctiva. So conjunctiva is this part. Okay, so it's a transparent membrane, okay, which protect the front part of sclera. So it just protect the sclera here. Okay, also here I got the at the top and also at the below one. Okay, it just protect the front part of the sclera. So that is a conjunctiva. Okay, other than vitreous humor, we still have another fluid that we call it as the aqueous humor. So it's actually in front here at the white part here. Okay, so this one also maintain the shape and also focus the light into the eye. So it has the same function as the vitreous humor. Maintain the shape, focus the light into the retina. Okay. And pupil. Pupil is actually the opening. Okay. It's just opening. You can see at this part. Yeah. This is the opening in the center of the iris which control the quantity of light entering the eye. So this is when you say your friend, okay, put a bright light on in your eyes. So your eyes will make the size of pupil smaller. Okay. So the pupil is actually only the opening. Okay. Opening in the center of the iris which control the quantity of light. Okay, and the next one we have the iris, the color part of the eye which controls the size of the pupil. So iris will control the size of the pupil, the opening, whether it should be, let's say, in the dark. Okay, let's say in a dark room, so your iris will make the opening become bigger, your pupil become bigger. Okay, let's say in the bright room, okay, let's say it's too bright, okay, your iris will make the opening, okay, or will make the size of pupil become smaller. So it controls the size of the pupil. Pupil only the opening part, right? And the cornea is the transparent layer which reflects and focuses the light into the retina. Okay, so the transparent layer, okay, the transparent layer is here, cornea here. Okay, it will refract. So means the refraction will occur here. Okay, and it focus the light into the retina. So whenever they use the words refracts, so you already know which part of it. Because every part they have the keyword. Okay, the keyword. So for the cornea, this is where the refraction occurs. Okay. Alright, and then the next one is the suspensory ligaments. Okay, it has a strong fiber which hold the eye lens in the position. Okay, it's only hold the eye lens there. Okay, and another one is the ciliary muscle. So muscle that change the thickness of eye lens. So the ciliary muscle, it will control the thickness of the eye lens through contraction and also relaxation. So that is the function of it. Whether your lens should be thicker or thin, it depends on the ciliary muscle. That one will control it. Suspensory ligament only hold the lens. Cornea is only to refraction occur there and it will help the light to focus to retina. Okay. Okay, and the last part is the eye lens. Okay, so the transparent and elastic convex lens which focus light into the retina. So the eye lens, okay, will focus the light into the retina. That's the important part, because if they say the light is not reaching the retina here, so they say the light only come at this part only. It doesn't reach the retina. So mean you will not see it. So that's why, okay, so that's why the eye lens, okay, it will focus light onto the retina. So there is many part of this inside our eyes that help, okay, the light to be focused on the retina, because the only photoreceptor only has only at the retina part, because if there is no photoreceptor means you will not see. Okay, so I think I will stop here first. Okay, so we see later. Okay, for the next class. Okay, we continue with the another part. Okay, of sensory organs. Okay, so I will give you the exercise. I already assigned a quiz for you. And actually for the notes, you don't need to worry because I already photocopy for you. But it's not like notes only. You need to fill in the blanks. Okay, so it can have that note. You need to fill in the blanks. It's part of the exercise too. Okay, so I will give you the notes. Okay, when the school open. So for just now, what you have to do, you just need to answer the quiz, okay, based on what I teach for today. Okay, and the exercise, the written exercise will be given to you during when your school open. Okay, only 2 weeks, right, for PDPR. So, and then you have to answer, okay, maybe if you can finish these 2 weeks, one chapter, then you have to do the exercise for one chapter. Okay, so if anything, you can text me. Okay, so let's say you don't understand anything, you can text me. So I'm sorry because I cannot make a Google Meet for you for this week. Okay, but for next week, we will see for sure. Okay, by using Google Meet. Okay, so I hope, okay, have a nice day. Okay, so don't forget to answer the quiz in the Google Classroom. Okay, make sure you submit it on time. Okay, so take care everyone. Okay, bye.